Greetings, YouTube. The Samurai Hobbit here. So, before I begin, let's get those holiday greetings out of the way. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Holidays. And, as a nod to my favorite comedian, James Rolfe, aka the Angry Video Game Nerd, if you have a problem with Happy Holidays, then happy shut the fuck up. Okay, with that out of the way, let's get started here. So, as you could probably guess, what I'm going to do is review the Disney features I've seen from childhood to now. So I set some rules for myself. Number one, has to be animated. That rule is not going to be broken. So, as much as I love some of the live action stuff, it's going to be animated. Another thing, it has to be from Walt Disney Pictures, or Disney Animation Studios, as it's called today. So again, as much as I love Toy Story, Up, and The Incredibles, no Pixar. No subsidiaries. Just has to come from the mouse itself. Those two rules will remain. Also, for the most part, it has to be part of the Disney animated canon. So I'm only going to break that rule probably once. Number 4, for the most part, it has to have one flowing narrative. Number 5, I had to have seen it at one point. I've been sort of marathoning Disney animated movies over the past week. I don't know. Originally, I was not going to do that. I was going to rely solely on memory. But I just finished Tarzan. More on that later. And I have a few more to go. So, I don't know if I'm going to be doing Zootopia or Moana, because I haven't seen them yet. I might, but we've got some ways to go. Alright, and now let's just get 2 things out of the way. 2 things, well, you're free to comment whatever the hell you want. This is YouTube, and I value our constitutional right to free speech. But one criticism I'm not going to take seriously is it's for kids, or it's a cartoon, be easy on it. Or, because you know what? Other things are for kids. Other things are cartoons, and they put a lot of effort into it. Hell, some of my favorite stories of all times were originally made for kids. Avatar: The Last Airbender, that show was rated Y7, meaning it was meant for kids 7 and up. And that dealt with very adult subject matters in a very mature way. Still has an amazing lore and an amazing story. Some of my favorite video games, 2 of which whose stories surpass Avatar for me? Yeah, to me, Avatar is the third best story of all time. Are Xenogears and Final Fantasy VI. These games are T-rated, meaning kids are like 13 years old. That's the target demographic, 13 and up. Yeah, what a glare in my glasses. How does Doug Walker do this? Oh yeah, side note, I'm going to be referencing Doug Walker a lot. Another one I will not take seriously. The hell? Okay, my Siri is possessed. Yeah, the other type of criticism I won't take seriously is that this is a ripoff of Disney-cember. Yeah, just because I'm doing Disney movie reviews in December doesn't make it Disney-cember. First of all, Doug Walker, he does one movie a day, and he has a sort of theme going. Me, I don't have a theme, except that it's movies that I've seen, and that it's animated. And from, the Disney canon, and I went over the rules already. Also, he puts clips. There aren't going to be any clips in my reviews. I don't know jack shit about video making. Nope. It'll just be me and my webcam and the glare in my glasses. So, I don't know if you don't want to just look at me talking and you just want to hear my voice, go on and, I don't know, write your reports for school or do your taxes. So feel free to do other stuff. So actually, please feel free because there are no clips. And if you have a problem with swearing, too fucking bad. I swear. It's what I do. And gonna be also referencing Doug Walker a lot, as I said, because he's the one who inspired me to do this years ago. For years, I was trying to come up with a way to how to do this, etc. Okay, no matter how this video turns out, it's going on YouTube tonight. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's get this party started. Oh, fuck. Actually, let's not get this party started. So here's my formula. Background, animation, characters, songs, story. Except in areas where that's not possible to do. Alright, now let's get this party started. Without any further ado, here we go. Number 1, Snow White and the Seven Dwarves. This was Walt Disney's first feature-length film. I'll tell you straight out right now, I never cared for the Disney cartoons. I was never a fan of Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, Goofy, and all those guys. When it came to cartoon shorts, I was a Warner Brothers fan. Bugs Bunny, all the Looney Tunes. I was also an MGM guy, like Tom and Jerry, Droopy, Barney the Bear, anything from Hanna-Barbera or Tex Avery. However, where Disney pwned was in the movie industry. They pretty much invented the animated movie. And right off the bat, You could tell that Walt and his crew put their hearts into the animation, which was in Technicolor. Hardly anybody thought that this would be a success. Yeah, this was a new thing. It was an experiment. There were a lot of naysayers out there. Even Walt himself knew that this was not going to be a definite success. He was a risk taker. And speaking of taking risks, we'll talk more about that once we hit the later movies. People thought that the audiences, notably children, will not be able to sit down for an hour and a half watching these bright colors. Yeah, the Technicolor thing was new. And, well, obviously, it was a success. And it cost $1.5 million to make. And in the late 1930s, 1.5 million is not something to sneeze at. That would be around 62.5 million in today's money. Yeah, that seems pretty standard now, but that back then, that was a huge amount of money. And the animation in this movie was without a doubt the best thing about it. It was almost something out of a storybook, with like a children's storybook, or with bright colors and illustrations. The movement wasn't as fluid as it could have been, but it was a product of its time. But as I said, the animation was the best thing about this movie. Everything else was not too impressive. Yeah, I don't care that it was the first one. I'm not going to be easy on any of these movies. I was not around in 1938. I was born in 1986. So, no matter when the movies were released, I'm basing my opinion on how I thought about it then and how I thought about it now. And its impact on film culture or whatever, well, is irrelevant to me. So, let's get to the characters now. In the early Disney films, the focus tended to be more on the side characters and the antagonists rather than the protagonists. I have to say, Snow White's voice actress made me cringe. Her singing voice was terrible. And the character herself was just there. She was nice, yeah. I'm not saying that she was annoying, but I just never really cared what happened to her, even when I was little. The prince, who until yesterday I thought didn't have a name, Florian. Fucking Florian. When I hear the name Florian, I think of the ice cream man from Harry Potter, who Voldemort kidnapped for some reason. The interesting characters were the Queen and the Dwarves. Snow White was about as interesting as the woodland critters. She was there to look pretty, they were there to look cute. The Queen's motive was to be the fairest of all. A pretty stupid goal in hindsight, but she was just so intimidating. She managed to make this silly petty goal look scary. Her character design, her voice, and the extreme lengths she was willing to go to achieve them. Then you had the Dwarves, and that is what everybody loved about this movie. You connected with them. You found it funny how they had names to match their personalities. They were what made the movie interesting. You know what? Even the huntsman was more interesting than Snow White. And he has literally one scene, lasting less than a minute. Okay, 2 scenes. I forgot he was also at the Queen's. But, like all kids, I had novelizations of some Disney movies. In the Snow White one, the character of the huntsman is expanded upon a little bit. The queen threatens to kill his family if he doesn't kill Snow White. But, yeah. Alright, the music. Songs are memorable. Especially Hi Ho and the yodeling song, both of which were sung by the Dwarves. So with their catchy tunes. Snow White's song sounded like... Alright, the songs themselves were okay, but the voice was like nails on a chalkboard. I'm sure the actress tried her best. I'm sure, but for fuck's sake. Her singing voice was even worse than her speaking voice. Someday My Prince Will Come with a Smile and a Song. Again, they would have been okay with a decent singer. As a kid, I really loved the song Whistle While You Work, because we used to sing it in first grade music class. But Snow White even ruined that one. The story, it was 1938. I can't bitch too much about the story. Like I said, they could have made Snow White and the Prince a little more interesting. But hey, we got cute woodland critters, interesting, side characters, and a very exciting climax that paid off well. All in all, I would give it a 7 out of 10. Pinocchio. The animation quality was obviously better. It started to look more like animated film type drawings more than story type drawings. Like children's book drawings. It was at times beautiful, at other times funny, and at other times creepy. Again, a lot of heart went into the animation. I wanted to climb up those mountains in the background of that village. Characters. In stark contrast to Snow White, everybody was interesting here. Pinocchio himself was a good character in the sense that he acted, for all intents and purposes, like a real boy. He wasn't suffering from how Lindsay Ellis would describe kids in some later movies. That it's not how a kid actually behaves, it's how adults want a kid to behave type of character. Pinocchio did bad things, he misbehaved, but he was not a bad kid. He was just a kid. Jiminy was the voice of reason, but he had his limits. He got mad. Geppetto was a kind old man. No way you can hate him. And Figaro, Kitty, and Cleo, they added a cute factor. Stromboli, he managed to be both comical and scary at the same time as a bad guy. I used to think that he was named after the food, but no, he was named after the volcano. The coachman. Oh, by the way, I never actually had Stromboli. If any of you had it, tell me, how does it taste? Anyway, the coachman. He's the one who scared me. You know how when you're little, your parents talk to you how, about stranger danger? That creepy guy who, in a weird way, asks you to come with him, and he'll take you somewhere fun, like a theme park or a pizza place or a fast food restaurant, etc. This was the guy that came to mind. Lampwick, even though he was supposed to be a bad kid, I felt awful when he turned into a donkey. Honest John and Giddy, they were the first characters I legitimately hated, and I wanted to see them killed when I was a kid. Oh, and I can't be the only person who misheard Giddy's name as Kitty. Well, because he's a cat. In hindsight, the only character I ever had a problem with was the fairy. Because the whole message seems a bit, I don't know. It's like Pinocchio needing to learn a life lesson was pointless. More on that in the story section. Music. The songs were all good. I remember loving them all as a kid. My favorite was always High Diddle Dee Dee. The iconic When You Wish Upon a Star is one I like to make fun of, as giving false hope to kids. But it's all in good fun. I don't think any kid took that song literally. And When You Wish Upon a Star became basically the anthem of the Disney Corporation. And Give a Little Whistle, that was a fun one. And Little Wooden Head. It was an okay song. As a kid, I was just focused on those music boxes, the toys, and the clocks. The story. I never read the novel by Carlo Collodi, or Collodi, or Collodi, whatever. We'll just call him Carlo. But this was much more interesting than Snow White. Mainly, it gave us a reason to care about the main characters and get us invested in the plot, like what happens to him. And now, onto that fairy. I take issue with one thing. When the fairy arrived, she told Geppetto that he dedicated his entire life bringing happiness and joy to others, and that he deserved to have his wish come true. So, why didn't the fairy just turn Pinocchio into a boy immediately? If you want to get technical, we wouldn't. It's because we wouldn't have a movie if she did. But why did Pinocchio need to learn a life lesson? He didn't ask to be carved. He didn't ask the fairy to come to life. Whatever. It's still enjoyable. Fantasia. This is very different from other Disney films, as it doesn't have a flowing story or characters. It's just, as Doug Walker said, an emotional experience with visuals and music. I first saw this when I was 6 and was just blown away by the visuals and how the music just fit every single frame. You know, this is something I must comment on. The older Disney movies seem to have a sort of ballet thing going on, or even an opera. It's basically Walt Disney and the Nine Old Men. They were thinking of Lincoln Center when it came to these movies. It's like the movement of the characters and the effects when it's like they fit the music. It's like the music came first, the animation came second. The later movies, actually mainly the Renaissance ones, they were thinking more Broadway. Like the story came first and the music came second. Yeah, anyway, let's talk more about Fantasia. And just how it fit every frame, the movement, the abstract imagery of the toccata and fugue, the simple nature setting and beauty of the Nutcracker, the Sorcerer's Apprentice, which was like semi-comedic, the mysteriousness of the Rite of Spring, the calming ancient Greek setting of the Pastoral Symphony, the slapstick of Dance of the Hours, and the horrors of Night on Bald Mountain, transitioning into the beauty of the Ave Maria, which you don't need to be religious in order to appreciate. Personally, I'm agnostic, leaning more towards yes than no, but I'm culturally Jewish, but spiritually agnostic. Disney and his crew, they, again, really put their hearts into this, into making something different. Even the orchestra was having fun with it, what with their random swing number during the intermission. Leopold Stokowski, he made me want to play in the orchestra as a kid. Just by how passionate he was with conducting. He was forgetting Mickey Mouse and his wizard hat. This was the guy who looked like a wizard. Especially in the toccata and fugue. It's like he was conjuring the music out of thin air. And speaking of which, my least favorite segment was, ironically, the very reason Fantasia even exists. The Sorcerer's Apprentice. I'm sorry, but I do not like Mickey Mouse. Or any of the Disney cartoons. Except maybe Goofy, but I didn't watch Goof Troop or any Goofy cartoons either, other than the Goofy movie. All in all, this is one I see myself returning to many times in the future, and this is one of the ones I watched on my marathon. Dumbo. While Fantasia nowadays is seen as a masterpiece, at the time, it didn't make a lot of money. Yeah. I don't know what the critics thought of it at the time, but it didn't make as much money as they would hope. So with Dumbo, Disney decided to make something low budget until their next big project. Basically, it's an underdog story. With the animation, again, it's not very fluid. Still good quality, but it's Bugs Bunny cartoon quality, not Disney movie quality. Um, the effects, again, were okay for a cartoon short. But yeah, I can't really criticize the animation other than what I just said. Anyway, characters. Dumbo did not speak at all. He was just pretty much walking around looking cute, sad, and happy. The main focus was on the side characters again. Timothy the mouse was great at supporting as a supporting friend for him, his only friend. And one of my favorite lines in any Disney movie was Timothy's, "The very thing that held you down is going to carry you up and up and up." It's Mrs. Jumbo, obviously a loving, caring mother. Then you add the antagonists, like the other elephants, who were really cruel to him. The ringmaster, who I hated as a kid. And the clowns, who I recently learned were a parody of Disney animators were striking against Walt. And now let's just address the elephant in the room. No pun intended. Seriously, no pun intended. I hate puns. Yeah. They talked like stereotypical blacks. Their leader was named Jim Crow. Like, yo. But there are some details here that people forget. This was not seen as racist at the time. From what I read, most of the voice actors were black. And this was just how people thought that blacks commonly talked in those days. And you know what? Stereotypes, as narrow-minded and sometimes harmful as they can be, do have some truth in them. I mean, certain demographics have different slang, and in the 1940s, some blacks a lot did talk like that. Most of all, the Crows were good guys. They were among the very few characters in this movie that weren't douchebags. They literally got Dumbo to fly. So yeah, the music. The songs were okay for the most part. There was nothing, none of them were really spectacular, except When I See an Elephant Fly. Baby Mine was sad enough. The song they sing when they built the circus, I found the tune fun when I was little, until I was old enough to understand the lyrics. Yeah, now that is what was racist. The ones building the circus, the humans they were black, and talking about how they would throw their pay away. But yeah, not cool Disney. No matter when the movie was released. Casey Jr., I loved that song when I was a kid. Oh yeah, I forgot about him as a character. Yeah, that train was awesome. Pink elephants on parade. That, like all kids, that scene just confused me. I didn't know whether to be scared or just, or laugh. Looking out for Mr. Stork was just whatever. Story. What can I say? It's a Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer story. An underdog story. Just a fun little story about a bullied, shunned kid rising to fame, in spite of everyone saying he's not worth a damn. Okay, that's it for this bit. Most of these videos are going to have 4 movies, so this is the Samurai Hobbit, signing out. See you next time.